You go with your probation officer.
Puede acompañar el agente de libertad condicional.
All right, thank you. We do have a victim case we're going to do next. We got behind. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Vivian.
You're
Thank you, Your
welcome.
Honor.
Happy, Your Honor.
We got two tough cases to go. We had, as I said, we got behind us. My apologies, Mr. Truckee, but we're going to take up Devon Martin. He's not ready. We can go to the other case. Well, this is another in a sequence of 4 difficult cases today. In this case, once again, Anthony Campfield is here and Autumn Kiefer had prepared this police or pre-sentence report. This is a bad case. File number is 251308FD. The defendant is here with his attorney, Paul Gibson. He originally got a ticket for reckless driving, failed to stop at assured clear distance, rear-ended another vehicle causing multiple rollover crash. Prosecutor filed a formal complaint in the matter, which I'm glad they did. Sometimes they miss these, but this was charged as a felony, operating while intoxicated, causing a serious injury, which is a felony punishable by up to 5 years imprisonment. The defendant was also charged with operating with a high blood alcohol level. The matter was set for a preliminary examination and a pre-exam conference because it is a felony. It was adjourned a couple of times, and then it resulted in a negotiated plea to the misdemeanor charge of operating with a high blood alcohol charge, with the indication they would be requesting restitution. And the felony charge was dismissed. The matter was set for sentencing today, and Ms. Kiefer did the difficult task of doing the pre-sentence in this case. Defendant was 3 times the legal limit, and people were almost killed. Mr. Gibson, what would you like me to know?
The defendant is employed by St. Joseph County Transportation. He's got a good job. He's hopeful that he can maintain his employment. And so as far as I would ask the court to consider any jail to be deferred or to be allowed to be scheduled on the weekends so the defendant can keep his job. And so this was a very unfortunate incident, but this is the first time that the defendant's been in trouble. He has no criminal history. He's 25 years old. This was obviously a very bad accident, and the defendant himself was injured in the accident. And so he knows that this was a very dangerous and very serious situation, and he's very remorseful for the situation. And so I'm asking the court to consider a recommendation, following a recommendation of the probation department. Thank you.
Ms. Campfield, what's your thought here?
Your Honor, I have information, photographs for the court, as well as the restitution request from Ms. Shockley. The driver of the vehicle who was struck, she is present and would also like to address the court. The court can see from the photographs that Ms. Shockley did take photographs of the injuries that she suffered. They're all over her body, on her arm, on her hips, on her legs. She had quite a severe contusion on her head, which was originally why it was charged as a felony. When we spoke with the emergency room physician, determined that that was not quite the same as an interior brain injury, although I do believe she probably had some concussive symptoms. She did take quite a bit of time off from work, which is part of the request for restitution, in addition to a lot of the items that were damaged and were unrecoverable from the vehicle. The court can see from the vehicle, the black Prius was basically crushed front and back, because once struck, Ms. Shockley did indicate to me she was hit a second time by the defendant, who had also lost control of his vehicle. In the photographs, his vehicle is the red Jeep Cherokee. Probably both vehicles were a loss. I'm not sure about the defendant's, but I know hers was a loss. She's very lucky when I look at that Prius, as is the defendant, that she wasn't more severely injured or killed.
Well, there was a third car involved in this accident.
Correct.
That took off.
It did. That was a car that once Ms. Shockley was struck by the defendant, she had sideswiped, I believe, that vehicle that was traveling next to her. One portion of the police report that I think really describes what happened is a witness by the name of Mr. Brady Slack, indicating that his father and he were in the turn lane to turn around on 131 to go toward Heimbach Road when they saw the red Jeep Grand Cherokee driven by the defendant approaching in the right lane, stating he was flying well over the speed limit. He was closing in on them at about 80 miles per hour, if not more. Brady stated that he watched the vehicle go all the way to the two vehicles ahead of him, which were close, if not side by side, stating that the red colored Jeep Grand Cherokee slammed into the vehicle on the right, being the black and colored Toyota Prius. There was no braking, no hesitation, no swerving, nothing from the red and color Jeep Grand Cherokee before striking the Prius. When that was struck, the little black vehicle was in the right lane and the black vehicle then bumped into the other vehicle that was beside it. And then the vehicle in the left lane went off the roadway to the right into a ditch and then left the scene. After being struck by the Jeep Grand Cherokee, the black passenger car struck a guardrail and the Jeep Grand Cherokee traveled farther south on down at US 131 before coming to a stop. I don't know how each of them came out of this without much more severe injuries. And frankly, the defendant's lucky that he only had a broken femur when you look at his vehicle as well. The blood alcohol level alone was a 0.24. For him to think that he was capable of driving at that level is beyond me. And with that tolerance and still being able to drive, granted, much to an inhibited degree, the defendant has a history of alcohol abuse because he would not be at that level and still on the roadway. So I think I agree with the recommendation of probation and all of the other things except for deferred jail. Because of the severity of this incident, I think the defendant needs at least 60 days of jail, and that's probably a low recommendation, but I do recognize it's his first offense. We're just, again, very fortunate that nobody died in this accident, especially when you look at the vehicles. Both of them had to be extricated from within for their medical treatment.
Ms. Shockley, you'd like to speak to me? Autumn, could you trade spots with her? Good morning. Would you state your name for the record, please?
Michaela Shockley.
Could you spell that for me? I've got it here, but I want to spell it for the record.
Michael with an A, Michaela. And then Shockley, ShockleY.
All right. Thank you for being here. What would you like me to know?
So I have a statement that I wrote towards Mr. Martin. Over the past few months, I have thought and considered what I wanted to say to you if I ever saw you, and all I've come up with, was it worth it? By the reckless choice you made that night, you not only put your life, but multiple other lives in danger. You hit me at a ridiculous speed while I was in the right hand of the highway, lane of the highway, and almost killed me. By the look of my car, I should be dead. How I walked away, I have no idea. You got lucky, and I can only hope that whatever happens today and whatever sentence you are given will teach you never to do this again. It was reckless, it was stupid, and you should have known better because our entire lives we have been preached never to drive after drinking, and you chose to do so. I will never understand why people choose to drive intoxicated and risk lives. It's selfish, and I have no pity for people who have no care for the lives of others that they risk. You have no one you can blame but yourself, and I only hope your punishment is just and you never make this mistake again.
Let me ask you something. He claimed, and the person who's 3 times the legal limit is probably not in a position to have a lot of credibility to their story, that you slammed on your brakes, which caused this accident. Did you have any reason to slam on your brakes while you're simply driving down 131?
I was struck from behind.
And so you had not applied your brakes?
No. I was on my way home. I was in the right-hand lane, and I vaguely remember the black car behind me because all I was thinking about was I had Applebee's at home for dinner. I just got off an 8-hour shift of working at a grocery store. I'm a manager.
What store?
Wagner's Madeline.
Well, that's a long drive.
And I drive it every day. And I was in the right-hand lane of the highway, maintaining my speed of about 63 miles an hour, I want to say. And I had no inclination or indication that I was going to be struck from behind except for the illumination of his headlights in my cabin. And all next thing I knew is I was hit.
Here's the terse accident report language of this. It's called a UD-10 that the police officers do in an accident. And I would say that here, Deputy Radke and others did a good job in this case. And unit 1, 2, and 3 were all traveling southbound on 131. Unit 1, which would be you, Mr. Martin, was traveling at a high rate of speed when it collided with the rear end of Unit 2. That would be Ms. Shockley's car. Unit 2 then struck Unit 3, which is the person that took off. Upon separation, Unit 2 veered left, striking the guardrail and overturned. Unit 2 rolled and came to a stop in the middle of US 131, facing in a northwest direction. Unit 1, that's you, after separating from Unit 2, overturned and rolled. Unit 2 came to a stop in the middle of the roadway, right into the ditch. Unit 3 drove, this the other guy, drove 100 yards south through the ditch before returning to the roadway. Unit 3, being a victim, left the scene. Witnesses stated that Unit 2 was traveling at 80 miles per hour plus when it collided with the back of Unit 2, which caused Unit 2 to strike Unit 3. He claimed Unit 2 slammed on their brake, causing him to strike Unit 2. Unit 2 said she didn't have time to hit her brake before she knew it. Her car broke as she was headed toward the guardrail. This is 131 after it has been rebuilt. There are guardrails all up and down there. There are no cross directions. The shoulders are wider. You can't cross it. You have to have Michigan left. You have to go north to go south. But we get a lot of accidents right here. I mentioned earlier our previous sheriff was involved in a 2-car rollover accident with a few miles from where this was. So you've got a lot of restitution in here, including the time you had to take off from work. Is that correct? And that was to take care of your medical issues?
I could hardly move.
Now, this was charged as a felony and it was reduced to a misdemeanor. Did anybody discuss that with you before that was done?
No. I was informed that he had pled guilty, and I was informed that there were 3 possible charges that he could have received. And honestly, I believe the felony one is the best suited one.
All right, well, what I have is this. The felony case would have sentencing guidelines attached to it. This does not.
Your Honor, can I just add one thing?
Yes.
In going over the restitution with the defendant, he had questions for me and I hadn't had, I don't know if I had gotten sent that information. So I guess I would ask for the defendant to be able to reserve the right to have a hearing on the restitution once I have an opportunity to review the.
Well, I got it this morning about somewhere when I was in the middle of my civil docket. The clerk sent it to me. All right, well, I'll consider that. Well, Ms. Shockley, has there been a lawsuit filed?
Not yet, or I don't know if my
Well,
dad.
did you make, you made a claim with your insurance company?
Yes,
And did they pay your medical expenses and time off?
yes,
All right. And your insurance company may end up suing his insurance company before it's all done, although this is a no-fault state. And as far as I can tell, he had valid insurance in place at the time. Mr. Martin, this is not characteristic for you. As indicated, you have no previous criminal record. However, you involved in 2 previous traffic crashes, January of the previous year, and I don't remember when the other one was. So you're a mechanic. I think you have a CDL. You work for the county transportation department, and you almost killed yourself and several other people. So what would you like me to know?
I don't have anything to say, Your Honor.
You don't have anything to say?
I mean, I made a mistake. I know I did. I think her speech was about perfect.
All right, thank you. Ms. Shockley, who are you to Bruce Shockley?
not related.
Okay,
The closest thing I've got is my deceased grandfather, Robert Bruce.
he is a local musician and music teacher, and plays in several bands and gave guitar instructions to my kids. I didn't know if you were related to
It
him.
could possibly be.
He's a good guy, so wouldn't be a bad guy to be related to, but apparently you're a different Shockley family. All right, you can have a seat. All right, Autumn. As I said, you drew this short straw. And the defendant is employed. He's going to keep his employment, presumably. If I put him in jail for 60 days as requested, he's going to lose his employment. This was a felony, reduced to a misdemeanor. However, it's a serious one. There's no perfect answer, but your recommendation is probation and some jail time, much of it deferred and some on weekends. What else would you like us to know?
Well, he was upfront and honest with me, at least from what I could tell, that he does drink alcohol on a regular basis. More than likely, my guess is we're dealing with a small alcohol issue. It was a serious incident. He told me several times, and he was sorry for the incident.
Well,
However-
he didn't tell Miss Shockley he was sorry. He had a chance to, and he had nothing to say. So
However, he did continue to question why the other vehicle in front of him slammed on brakes. So I'm not so sure he truly remembers the entire incident in its totality. So we may be dealing with a substance abuse issue that needs to be addressed, and probation will do that. He claims to me that his employer is fully aware of this incident, knows that he does not have a driver's license for the next year, and they have told him that they will maintain his employment, which, as I told him, he's pretty lucky, since my guess is, being a mechanic, he'd have to drive the vans that he's fixing. But he needs a probation. He needs a huge timeout. He needs a substance abuse assessment, and I do think there should be jail ordered on weekends.
I'm gonna
to
do it.
maintain employment if he's gonna have to pay back restitution.
I agree. I'm gonna do a 24-month probation, 30 days jail, credit 0 because of his accident. He went to the hospital himself, leaving 30 days to serve. We're gonna do him on weekends. If I give him 30 days, he's gonna lose his job. He isn't gonna be able to pay any restitution. But you can't use any drugs or any alcohol. When did you have your last drink?
And the night of the accident.
All right, that's a good answer. That's the right answer. No drugs and no alcohol. This is prescribed, including marijuana. There's a $300 fine, a $75 crime victims' rights fee, $50 state minimum fee, $100 screening fee, an attorney fee of $150, probation oversight fee of $960. Police reimbursement. I thought I saw one in there. Do you have it, Miss Campfield?
1 moment, please, Your Honor. I've got to get out of.
Scary thought I had is the other driver that took off. Who does that? Somebody that's drunk. Yep, more than once if I had 2 drunk drivers hit each other and kill each other. But that's my suspicion.
Your Honor, I don't see a reimbursement request. It was the sheriff's department. And I know at my request, they obtained under a prosecutor's letter, the defendant's medical records, which would be also inclusive of the toxicology, which gave us the blood alcohol level. So they did not independently have to do a blood test.
One thing we didn't get was the black box information out of either car. This had been a death. It would have been nice to have it. It was charged as a felony. I'd be really interested in how fast he actually was going. And the defendant's, the other driver's car would have told whether she had applied the brakes or not. That would have been important to know had there been a trial. It would have been important to know anyway, but apparently if they got it, I didn't get it. But that black box is I didn't have it through most of my prosecutor career.
Your Honor,
Yes,
I applied the brakes after I was struck to try to gain control of the car.
okay. That's what you said. And I said, a person who's 3 times the legal limit probably isn't the aggressive judge of what actually happened. But that would have told us how fast he was going, how fast you were going. Probably nobody just thought of it. This happened in July. There would have been time to get it, but it wasn't done. Let's add all that up.
Your Honor, is there a fee for the victim impact panel?
$32.
$32. And I'm gonna do a $200 police reimbursement. All right, fine 300, 125, screening fee 100, 150 attorney fee, 960 probation oversight fee, $200 police reimbursement, and a $32 victim impact panel, 1867. The defendant posted a $5,000 PR bond, so there's no bond. Ms. Shockley, you might be a great speaker for the victim impact panel as to what a drunk driver did to you by colliding with you. I'd ask maybe the victim unit and the prosecutor to keep that in mind. That's the kind of thing that has impact on people. I'm going to reserve on the restitution because there's issues regarding insurance, potential lawsuit. The defendant indicated she was reimbursed from her time off from insurance company. I can always amend things while I'm under probation. Well, if we'd started on time, we might have been finished on time, but Mr. Martin, it wouldn't have been a hard decision to just give you 60 days in jail. And then you'd go on with your life. You'd lose your job. You wouldn't be able to pay the restitution. But I'm on a probation. It's good that you haven't had anything to drink since this evening. 0.24, Ms. Campfield said the defendant has a history of alcohol abuse. Well, you don't have any previous convictions, but you have to build a tolerance up to get to 2.4, particularly on beer. That's a lot of beer. People drinking hard liquor, vodka or tequila or spirits have an easier time getting their blood to that level, but that's a lot of beer, which means you've had practice to get that high. Most people can't get to a 0.24. They get sick or pass out before that. So you have to build a tolerance. So I think you're aware of that, but now, all right, you go with Ms. Kiefer. Autumn, we're going to try to get more information about the restitution, whether there's insurance is applied to some of it or what the status is, but we'll add some restitution to this. He's got at least a year, potentially 2 to pay it all if we need to.
Your Honor, if I may just get some clarification from the court.
Let me have that.
Are the weekends of jail to start this weekend?
I hadn't decided. I'll leave that to the probation bar. There's no reason why they couldn't.
And then with respect to the restitution, do you want things submitted to Ms. Kiefer within a certain time period? or
Yes,
we
I'd
can
ask
schedule a-
within the next 60
hearing?
days. If we need to have a hearing, we can always schedule one.
You want just clarification on what the insurance has paid versus what has not been covered?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so we have one more to go. And this is under easier. Angelo and Susan Alvarado. Would you come forward, please? Good morning. Are you Angelo Alvarado?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I met you at the time of your arraignment. I'm Judge Middleton. I'm glad you were here. We had a touch and go as to whether you were going to be here this morning, but the matter was set for today and you're here and pleases me.
I didn't want to create any more.
All right, good. Well, this is the time and date for sentencing in this matter, which is filed 251468 SD. You're from Saginaw. You were here working on a project at Westside Landfill, and you got arrested in the middle of the intersection at 131 and Broadway, I believe. We get a lot of stuff with this other accident. It was a few miles up the road on 131. And fortunately, nobody was killed, or your case either. Mr. Truckee, I know you've been all over this case. We discussed it a couple times last week, getting ready for today, just in terms of scheduling it. But what would you like me to know?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Alvarado, he's a full-time worker and a full-time father. He's got a 4-year-old and a 4-month-old at home. And if you do the math, a 4-month-old means he had a 9 months pregnant girl in his home at the time of this offense. And that, I think this is kind of the grab you by the shirt collar and shake you sober moment for Mr. Alvarado. He's not reported to me that he's been a consistent drinker or has a significant drinking problem, but he has been a construction worker who works on the road with a crew of guys. And my father did that. And I kind of learned a little bit about that industry. And unfortunately, oftentimes it's accompanied by going out after you get done, because your family's 4 hours away, and lo and behold, your brother's here on the crew with you, and he's celebrating his birthday. And you go to Sam's and you have 10 beers and you go back to the hotel. And because you've had 10 beers, you make a stupid decision to go back to Sam's. Some might argue it's a stupid decision to go there in the first place, but I kind of like Rosie. But the point is, this was a series of foolish macho decisions to go out, drink too much, carry on while you're on the road working with your brother and your crew. And you see from the PBTs, it's in that 0.14 to 0.17 with a range. There's a couple of them given. And Mr. Alvarado does fall asleep at an intersection, as does his passenger, which is kind of strange to me. But they fall asleep in the warm car, I suppose, or the cool car, being it was August. And that kind of starts to tell me that this isn't a huge habit of his, because he's a 0.17 and he's passing out. Thankfully, no one was injured. Thankfully, the two children at home still have a father. Thankfully, he still maintains his employment with the same company. I think the boss man would have been well within his rights to say, get out of here. You got arrested while we're working on the road. And now what? I got to bail you out. I got to put you to work. You're going to be a terrible worker the next day because you're hungover and tired. But the company stuck with Mr. Alvarado. Mr. Alvarado stuck with the company. The recommendation in this case is for some scheduled jail, deferred jail, and probation. We would ask that the court consider Mr. Alvarado's employment situation, his lack of a significant drinking problem, in determining the sentence. He living in Saginaw and traveling about 30% of the time he's out of state for work. So I do see there being some issues with serving a probation. Also, this is his first criminal offense, and he's age 27. He, again, grew up in Saginaw, lived there his whole life. And so making it, not that it's some achievement to make it to 27 without a criminal record, but it is something the court should consider as well. So for those reasons, we're asking that the court consider a time served sentence with fines and costs as appropriate, in lieu of the jail and probation as recommended. The other thing I would note is that, again, Mr. Alvarado works regularly, works hard at what he does, and not to make excuses, but we recognize he missed the screening. He was able to catch up with that. I don't think that Mr. Alvarado's attitude is as reflected in the report. I think there may have been some just miscommunication with that, and I think he'd have a statement today to that effect. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Alvarado, I'll let you go next. What did you want to say?
I just wanted to say I was sorry for failing my probation interview. I had just woken up, so emotions could be a little low at that time, but I was just trying to be honest.
Well, the impression that he got was you weren't taking this very seriously, but I'm very pleased that you're here. You were supposed to start work in South Carolina today, so this affects your employment. But anyway, we can proceed. This is, as far as I could tell, your first criminal offense. As he said, it would have been a damn shame if your daughter was born and never knew her dad. Ms. Campfield, what would you like me to know?
Your Honor, I'm just reflecting on the defendant's driving record. He does have a chauffeur's license, or at least did prior to this incident happening, but he has been in another accident, and he has also had a speeding citation, as well as disregarding a traffic control device, which I would only presume is running a red light. So he isn't being careful on the road. That's indicative by this drinking and driving incident, and the fact that he was passed out, and then when speaking with Mr. Frazine was not taking the matter seriously, and said that, hey, had the light been green, he would have gotten home without being caught, or at least back to the hotel. It doesn't seem to be somebody that's taking it very seriously. You may tell the court that today because he's here for sentencing, but this is, I mean, he says he doesn't drink very much and this was out of character for him. But again, we have somebody who's at a 0.17 and still operating a vehicle admitted to 10 Modelo beers the first time he was at the bar. And then he went back and had more.
Which
So,
I think is, we get so many, the one guy that told us he had 3 drinks and he was a .12. I think this guy's telling the truth. He had 10 beers and then he had 10 more, I don't know, and he got to a .167. So I think he's being honest. We tend to get desensitized to how much alcohol it takes to actually get your blood alcohol this high.
yeah. I think another concern that I noted in the report was that he says he usually drinks with the guys 5 to 6 beers on average. So I'm wondering if they're going out and having that much at night after work, how many times he's been above the legal limit, driving back to the hotel or the work site or wherever he's staying. It's concerning to me.
Well, I can't speculate as to that, but let me say this, Mr. Alvarado. I tried to count one time how many drunk driving cases I've handled. I don't know. I was in the prosecutor's office for 23 years and this is my 24th year here. So that's 47 by the time I'm done. I'm thinking it's over 20,000. Probably at least 100 of them are you, a construction guy out here, maybe more than 100. I've had lots of these. They're out here working on a project, they're working on a highway crew, they're painting the Walmart, they're working on a project at Westside Landfill. They stay at the hotels on the west side of Three Rivers. Applebee's is over there. I've had dozens of cases just like this. And the construction culture was you'd work hard all day, you'd go out with the guys after work, have beers, get up and do it all over again the next day. Now, this day was a little different because it was your brother's birthday, but I'm trying to figure out how you got where you were. You were staying at the hotel on 131 and you went to Sam's Bar, which is south of Three Rivers on Lutz Road, becomes South Main, turns into Lutz Road. And somehow you're eastbound on Broadway and 131. Now, what's over there is Applebee's. Had you been at Applebee's?
No, Your Honor.
How did you get on the other side of 131 coming back toward the hotel?
So when we left the first time, we found Sam's and we went there, celebrated my brother's birthday. And then after that, we went back to the hotel. All the other guys were ready to stay in and continue to drink there. But me and another friend decided we were gonna go back to Sam's. So then we went back to Sam's, and then after that, I was on my way back to the hotel.
All right, but so the guy in the car was not your brother?
No, he was a coworker
All right,
slash friend.
but where you were isn't on the way back from Sam's.
Broadway and 131, Your Honor?
Yeah,
That's it.
he's eastbound on Broadway in the middle of the intersection.
It was westbound, that would be my sense.
Yes,
Me being under the influence, I'm sure. I probably
yeah, you might
forgot.
have taken some wrong turns here and there. Well, maybe that explains it.
But I also want to say with my past, driving experiences, if you see, they're within years of each other. So I'm not abusive. I never had the intentions of being abusive with my driving.
I'll
If I
accept
see-
that.
And
The
if I
young,
seem a little careless, it's just because I'm a man that takes, full responsibility in his actions.
what did you tell your wife?
I told her the truth too. And obviously, was in the doghouse.
The other factor here is 131. I've pontificated on this on a number of occasions. You're not from here, you're from Saginaw. That particular stretch of 131, and you heard about one farther up the road. If we go from the Big Hill in Constantine, which is about 2 miles south of where you were, to where you were, where the other one, there've probably been 100 fatal accidents in that strip. There have been a dozen or more fatal accidents, maybe 25 at the intersection you were in, even before Myers and Walmart were built. My memory goes back a long ways. So as I mentioned earlier, they reconstructed 131 to make it safer. But it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you're in the middle of the damn intersection with your friend passed out. That's scary. But
If I will say, I was at the light. I wasn't in the middle of the intersection. I was at the light.
All right, maybe so. Let's look at what the report said. Stopped at the intersection. Yes.
And it indicated that he had his foot on the brake, and when they were able to shake him awake.
Yeah, the car started to move and he had to put his foot down, and so, yeah, he was at the intersection. And this happens too, all the time. People are pass out at a stop sign. They pass out in the drive-through at McDonald's. They're waiting for their food. They fall asleep in the drive-through lane. And you're right, you were about 300 yards from making it home safe.
I'm sure if that, I'm not trying to make any excuses now.
But
I'm sure if
maybe
that light wasn't
lucky you
red-
didn't, because you would have done it again as opposed to this, which is a big wake-up call. All right, Daniel, I'll give you the last word.
Well, when I first read this, I was thinking about that. I think it was that very accident where someone, it wasn't even alcohol involved, but someone got rear-ended and got killed, and they were on a case load about 3 years ago. I think it was when it back hit someone and killed them at that accident, and had his foot come off while I was passed out. It's 1:31. Luckily, it's 3 a.m, but easily could have been a fatality. Speaking of someone who worked in on the road construction for 6 years, I can easily see how this kind of stuff happens. I've seen a lot of guys fall prey to this. Luckily, I was a little bit older, maybe wiser through some harder times. You were lucky that you didn't kill someone. You can see that the alcohol level is actually going up. So I don't know what he would have been. It was 6.7, and it was off by more than 0.3, so I had to do a third chem test, and it was a 1.71. So I don't think we really saw how drunk he really was at this point. Because he lives out of town, because of his road, I was kind of going back and forth whether just to do a jail sanction and let him go on his merry way. And I think it did sit in with him. I think some of it registered in him with him. I think he made some comments I didn't much care for. I thought they made it light. Oh, I was almost there. Or, hey, at least it wasn't a serious accident, or, I don't have any criminal history. But I think that was maybe just him and being honest. Looking back at this, I generally put everybody on probation. I think drunk driving is serious and at its face, regardless of what the legislators say. So I tend to think most people deserve a probation, and I like to think that they make better choices once they get some education while on probation. I leave it up to the court, but I did recommend, because of the high BAC and the fact that this very easily could have been a fatality, and the decision to go back to the bar afterwards, I believe that there was a good sanction to be at 2 days consecutive to really hit it home, and 12-month probation, and the typical drunk driving stuff and monitoring, Your Honor.
Again, this would be presumed to be a non-serious misdemeanor. That sticks in my craw, but that's what the law says. This would be very difficult for him to do a probation because he works all over the country. He lives in Saginaw. And so I'm not gonna do one. I'm gonna sentence 3 days jail, credit 1, leaving 2 days to serve. Do you want to do it now, or do you want to schedule it?
If I can schedule it, Your Honor, because I'm the sole provider of my family. And after I leave here today, I will be on the road and on the clock collecting mileage.
All right.
Till the 14th.
Um,
So if I could do it that week.
All right, we'll have the probation department schedule that with you. There's a $300 fine, $75 crime victims' rights fee, $50 state minimum fee, $100 screening fee, $150 attorney fee. I think there was a police reimbursement on this
I
one.
had 120.
There's a 120 police reimbursement, that's correct.
I'm not gonna do the victim impact ban. He doesn't live here. We'll let him 300 plus 125 plus 100 plus 150 plus 120. 795.
Your Honor, am I able to make a payment on that
Yes,
today?
yep. Do a payment plan, Matt, or he can talk to you about this. This was reduced to impaired driving. So that's another factor. It will allow you to keep a restricted driver's license. We had 4 drunk driving cases today. One was a terrible rear end traffic crash on 131. Another was some foolish person going 88 miles an hour up 131 from the other direction with a prior offense. Another guy was in a traffic crash in Sturgis with no lawful license, very high blood alcohol level. I don't know. Things are getting worse, or it just appears that way. The crimes get worse and the sentences get less. All right, you go with Mr. Frazine and he'll get you started on.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Alvarado, I'm glad you were here. You got a weekend in jail to do, but it'd be a lot better than a bench warrant with no bond. So you took it seriously at the end. And this is a cautionary tale for next work assignment you're at. You're good to go.
Your Honor, is the court retaining the exhibits on Martin?
The file already went out. I
Okay,
could
that's
give,
fine. I
I
don't
think
need
they,
them
they were scanned in.
Okay.
I got it this morning, but if you want it back,
Oh, I don't need them. It's okay.
yes, they are part of the file.
Thank you.
All right, another short lunch. That happens sometimes on Mondays. We'll be in recess